3 days ago, I thought I had just destroyed everything I spent the last 2.5 months building. On the exact day that I quit my job to become a full-time writer and YouTuber, I got hacked. Within an hour, I was locked out of my Google account, I was locked out of my YouTube, I was locked out of my email, I was locked out of everything. And I was watching videos somebody else was uploading in Russian to an audience of 12,000 people that I could not access at all. I couldn't even comment on the videos. Comments were disabled. And the worst part about all of this is it's my fault. I fell for the scam. I have only myself to blame in this situation. For 3 days, I had absolutely no idea whether I would ever get back the channel, if there were any back channels I could take, or if this was just something that was gone. But somewhere in the middle of the panic, I found myself wrestling with a different question, a much more important question, which is if I lost everything, if everything that we built over these last couple of months was completely gone, it disappeared today, disappeared tomorrow, would I still choose to continue on the path that I'm on? Here's exactly what happened, how the scam worked, why losing my channel, at least temporarily, I think ended up teaching me something I wouldn't have been able to learn any other way, and that was actually, in the end, for the best. I'm going to tell this story in 3 acts, seeing as this is a literature channel. So for those of you who are new, this is a little bit of a different video than normal, and I am going to talk about a couple of books, but mostly about my experience falling for a fake sponsorship scam and losing my channel. So Act 1 is the leap. This all happened on May 29th, Friday. I decided to go full-time as a writer. I decided to, writer, book reviewer, whatever I am on this YouTube, and coach. I'm also a writing coach. And I left my other job because I wanted to go full-time on this. I wanted to really bet on myself. The numbers were good. There was steady growth. I felt excited about it, passionate. This is really in line with my skills and my background, and what I studied. I was confident enough to bet on the value of building this community. And this community has been a huge blessing to me. I was even starting to think about the sponsorship ideas, and everything felt possible to me. Everything felt like it was going in the right direction. And then I got a message. Act 2, the fall. I logged into my Google account after I got a message that said that I have a sponsorship opportunity. Actually, I had a few sponsorship opportunities. So I was like, great. This is awesome. I'm finally getting some sponsorships. Grammarly, great. Grammarly is a great ad. I looked it up. I saw that it was totally legitimate, that they do sponsorships. I looked at their page. Then I clicked in my email, and it was exactly the same page, or so I thought. I logged into the page, and it looked legitimate, but really, it was a fake scam. It looked exactly like the regular page, but it was probably a slightly different URL that I just missed. I was busy at the time. I was doing a few things. I was closing out, my work on the other job that I was working on. And so when I got this scam email, I logged into my Google account in order to prove my identity. Rookie mistake, right? As I was going through this, something clicked. Something wasn't right. So I went off. I was like, okay, that was weird. Tried to log into my Google account, and I saw password changed less than an hour ago. My goodness. My recovery options, they were completely gone. I guess I had two-factor authentication off for ease of access, which is absolutely a rookie mistake. Do not do that in the future. But I couldn't access the account. They reset the passwords, they reset the phone number, they reset every way to access it. I was completely locked out of the account. And so panic set in. But I still had, one more call with my old job, so I tried to stay calm. I went on the call, and after that, I noticed something even worse had happened. There were 2 videos in Russian, Roblox videos, I think, that had been uploaded to my channel. So my heart sank. I was like, oh my goodness, are these scams going to hit my subscribers, part of the community? I was really worried. I was like, now fortunately they're all in Russian, and they were Roblox, and there was a completely different voice, so hopefully it didn't reach my specific viewers much. But I was rushing, I was panicking, I was not thinking clearly when I fell for the scam. So I tried to channel some stoic wisdom. I was like, what would Marcus Aurelius do, right? How can I bring myself back from the brink of chaos. But mostly I just panicked, if we're being honest here. I called a close friend, and together we tried all these different recovery options. We asked Google, we asked AI, we found absolutely no way to access an account that you were completely logged out of on Google. And I was like, I can't believe there's not a recovery option. And it was Friday at the time. The Sabbath was coming, and I don't use any tech on the Sabbath for 25 hours. Usually this is a huge blessing, a way to disconnect from a busy world. But this time it felt like terrible timing. It was like, oh my goodness, I really need to work on this right now. So I secured my devices. I changed every password I could think of. My email had been compromised, right? So I feared what information might be exposed. Fortunately, most of the sensitive accounts, I think, were tied to my other email. So thank goodness for that. Thank God for that. And the scam videos weren't targeted at my audience, right? They were in Russian. So that's another blessing. So I was able to bring myself down a little bit and say, okay, this is not a good situation, but it could be worse. Okay. And finally, after a lot of research before the Sabbath came, I found a specific escalation route for YouTube creators that were in the partner program on X. So there was a way to access all of this. I reached the right people finally, just before the sun was going down, and they said, wait while we review. So I logged off and I went to pray. Okay. That's what I do every Friday night. And then I went to dinner, and somehow at that moment, I think letting go of control, everything around me began to change again. My perspective changed on this whole situation. So that's where we get to Act 3, the restoration. I sat, I reflected, I thought about my choices and my direction and my vision and where I was going. Why I had decided to leave my job. I had gone through that. I had thought about that. It was something that I'd taken very intentionally, but I hadn't accounted on losing the YouTube, which at this point in my life is a major source of resource of income for me so I can support my work. My main work is as a writer, but I haven't published my work yet. So I said, okay, like this really changes things. But did it? I asked myself, if I had to start from zero again, knowing what I know now about building a YouTube, about building a community, which is really what I see this as, would I do it again? And the answer was yes, absolutely yes. I love this. I love talking about books. I love sharing my passion for literature. And I knew that even if I lost everything, even if I never get the YouTube channel back, I would turn this into redoubled effort to spread that joy, meaning, and the light of literature to affect some small positive change through reading and writing and discussion as much as I possibly can. To be honest, I felt a little bit like Dr. Pangloss from Candide. I don't know, for those of you who haven't read the story, he's the character who is parodied in Candide, which is a satire by Voltaire. And his whole thing is he's always saying everything is for the best. You know, he'll lose his nose for syphilis and all these crazy things will happen to him, and he'll say, oh, it's all for the best. There'll be an earthquake and people will die. It's all for the best, right? And when you read the book, you're laughing and you say, oh yeah, that's ridiculous. Of course, everything's not for the best. We live in a terrible world. All these bad things happen. But the more I reflect on this, I think really on one level, there's a naive optimism, which is obviously foolish. And I'm not a fool, or I hope I'm not a fool. So I reject that. But the next level up is not the wisest approach. It's simply this kind of self-righteous pessimism that, oh, well, yeah, optimism is so naive, so therefore the only way to get by is to be a pessimist. But that's also not true. I think reframing this, a conscious reliance on purpose, a kind of disciplined optimism that's rooted in action, that's rooted in doing the right things and not taking them for granted, and recognizing that whether you have to get there through a Hegelian dialect of synthesis of there are bad things, but also it's better to have a positive attitude, or just a recognition that something deeper than faith, but like reliance and trust, is the most meaningful way to live, especially when bad things are happening. That was what I realized. I realized that, okay, this is a small thing. There are way worse things that have happened in life that happen to other people all the time. And if I let this tarnish my view of humans, human nature, everything's terrible, then that's a win for the hacker, right? But I'm not going to let the hacker win, right? The hacker might be able to steal my data or my YouTube. Thank goodness In this case, I got the YouTube back, but we can't let those kinds of people, those kinds of influences take our spirit and our joy and our joie de vivre, our reason for doing what we do and waking up in the morning. That is absolutely imperative in situations like this. And that was one of the lessons I learned. So getting back to the story, when Saturday night came, I checked back in. While I waited for Google's recovery process, I focused on my writing again. And I had been writing consistently, but now I was writing with a different level of zeal. I was reading again. I finished the Count of Monte Cristo, which, rereading it was amazing. It really reminded me of what the Count says at the very end of the book about all human wisdom can be summed up in 2 words, wait and hope. And I just thought, wow, how relevant and how timely is that advice? But also action. Count of Monte Cristo was not a passive character. He took actions over years in order to effect justice on what has happened. And if you haven't read the book, I'm probably going to go do a deep dive on that one on Substack, so it'll be totally free, but if you want to go there, I would recommend that because that's such a great work. Consistent, deliberate action towards our mission is really what we have to do here. So 3 days later, I regained access. There was some damage, some loss. I lost some stuff, mostly just me, financially a little bit, but that's okay. Most of what we've built here together remains intact, which is the most important thing. It's the only thing I really care about. The other stuff doesn't matter to me. So what did I learn? Well, there's a number of lessons from this. Don't rush into things without verifying. Maybe that's a simple one, but it's important. Trust your gut, another important one. Watch out for the sophisticated scams out there. There are some really good ones. Make sure that whenever you're doing, you just pause for a second. You don't have to be afraid of trusting people and doing things. I think that's the wrong way to approach this, but pause and just don't rush when you're signing up for something. Make sure you make sure that this is actually legitimate, that it has appropriate verifications and whatnot. But also, use challenges as fuel. This reminded me why I love what I do. I will continue and absolutely I will improve. And that's my redoubled dedication to this. I've talked about my book club on Substack, and it said that it's coming soon. That is something that I've now taken some action on over the last couple of days. And so in June, we're gonna roll that out. And so if you're excited to be a part of that, let me know. You can sign up for the Substack as well. And writing coaching is my kind of side business that I do to support this as well. I'm going to expand that. No pressure at all for anyone who's here for the books, of course. But if you're a writer and you want support, one-on-one support, that's another thing that I do. And I'm going to be expanding that as well. So here on YouTube, really more of the same, more meaning, more value, more literature. My intention is to be a source of joy in literature and book love for everyone who watches. And I will make some missteps along the way, but I will do my best to make this the most valuable channel that it can be. So thank you to everyone who comments and supports and helps build this community. It really takes a village, and the positivity in this community here is really mind-boggling. So thank you, everyone, really from the bottom of my heart. And after this, we're back to book videos, okay? We're not going to talk about hacking and all this stuff. This is a one-off. I'll explore other topics that interest me. Maybe the next video I should do is like the best hacking books or something like that. So definitely stay tuned. But rounding this out here, spasiba. I guess I will have to learn Russian, considering that this also happened right after I made a joke about Russians. Anyways, that's a whole other thing there. But thank you for watching. I hope that the kind of conversational nature of this video and it being a little bit different didn't throw anybody off, but I just wanted to share what happened, and I'm excited. I got everything back that matters to me. I lost some stuff, but I learned lessons, and if that's the price of those lessons, it was worth it for me. So as always, thank you for watching. Happy reading, my friends, and God bless.